So Greta, you have been in some of my favorite movies of the last year. I mean, I'm not kidding. We're including Mistress America from before.
Right, okay.
And Frances Ha from before.
Thank you.
And we're including Maggie's Plan, which turned out to be a nice little modest hit.
Mm-hmm.
It did okay, although I thought it should have done even better.
Oh, well, it's so tricky. I mean, the independent film right now is so complicated in terms of people going, but the film was great and people really liked it. It made them happy, which is kind of.
I want people to see it. I really do, because Rebecca Miller, this is her 5th movie.
Yeah,
this woman has serious chops.
She's great. She's really great, and she's really. I think she's really under-recognized for how good she is. And the different kinds of films that she's made and the different genres she's capable in, she's the real deal. But she got some good props for Maggie's Plan. I feel like people really knew that she had made something good and gave her credit, which was gratifying.
I guess I'm entering into a concern that there are certain movies that I just think are the best movies I've seen, and where's everyone else recognizing that they should be taken seriously instead of put in some kind of chick flick universe, and it makes me angry.
Well, yeah, it makes me angry too. I think the first time I noticed that is the sort of the best actor nominees, the chance that their film will get nominated for Best Picture is pretty high. But Best Actress, a lot of the times their movies are not nominated for Best Picture because it's sort of like we can say, oh yes, that was a good performance by that woman, but we're not that interested in a movie about a woman. It's like, I remember the year Wild, and that wasn't nominated for Best Picture, which like you don't have to like Wild, but I mean, if
that was a good movie.
But the equivalent for a man, you would never, if it was a man's journey into the wilderness, and you would definitely get nominated for Best Picture. And I think that there's some sort of hierarchy of the value we place on stories, and women's stories seem to somehow never really hit that. Or do, but it's an uphill battle, and I don't understand it. I'm pretty much only interested in a movie if it's got a woman really in it.
It's kind of what struck me as I was looking at what you've been doing, and maybe I'm your demo, the smart movie about smart women demo, because that's what you're picking. You're picking these really brainy, intelligent women, and we can move on to 20th century women right here.
Right.
This character is so layered and juicy and difficult and challenging. You must have had a blast working on this.
It was extraordinary. I mean, also just that there's 3 of them. Annette is a goddess and is a goddess in everything. But this performance is, I might start crying while I talk about it, because I watched it again last night at AFI, and just, she's glorious and complicated and sexy and loving and mistake-filled, and she's sort of everything that humans are, you need an actress of her caliber to be able to really do that, and without a scrap of vanity. It's completely in the service of this person in the film, and I adore her, and Elle's character is complicated and spiky and vulnerable, and I don't know, to have one character in a film that's like that, let alone 3, it's
it's a gift.
And Mike Mills is a genuine feminist. I don't think very many men deserve that title. I think a lot of men say they're feminists, but I think not really, but Mike Mills really is a true feminist, and I just loved working with him and being around him, and I think it's because he takes the time to really listen to his sisters, and to his mother, and to his wife, and to his female friends. He's a listener, and
maybe that's because he's a writer first.
He's a writer first.
So he's an observer.
Yeah. I mean, I feel very, very lucky to have done these films, and
you're a writer too.
I am a writer. I think I'm, in some ways, also first a writer, but that's kind of how I come at everything. But
explain that.
Well, I wanted to be a playwright.
Not too late.
I really, I love plays, and I could still find out, but I think I loved theater when I was in high school, and I loved acting was kind of the way into theater, and I had started writing things, but I didn't. I mean, this is the oldest story in the book, but I was writing things, but I thought, well, other people are playwrights, and it wasn't until I was in college that I'd written, instead of doing a scene that I had found, I wrote a scene, and the acting teacher took me aside and was like, "Do you want to take a playwriting class?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't write plays." And she was like, "I think you're writing plays. That's what you're doing." And I think genuinely I thought, men write plays. I don't think it was a conscious thought, but I didn't really know any. There was a few, like, female playwrights I knew, like, but I didn't. It was by and large men. All of my favorite playwrights were also men, except for Carol Churchill, who I discovered later. But Edward Albee and Eugene O'Neill and Arthur Miller and Shakespeare. There weren't a ton of women I knew. Then I started taking playwriting classes, and then I learned about all these wonderful female playwrights that just, I don't know, they didn't get as much exposure, they don't get as much airtime. It wasn't like, these are our great American dramatists.
Wendy Wasserman or whatever.
Wasserstein?
Steen?
Yeah.
Typical?
No, she, yes, the Heidi Chronicles I knew, but then it's a kind of equivalent in a way to female directors. You run out, you think, oh no, that was a great film, and then what? Like, did they do another one? Or, like, I mean, it's felt similar. So anyway, then I started writing plays, and I loved it, and I kept acting, but that was what I wanted to do. But then I applied to graduate school, and I didn't get into any graduate school for playwriting. And at that point I was already making really small movies with
They have you identified with mumblecore,
yeah,
which I find amusing.
With like the
Joe Swanbergs
and Boljowski and all of those people, and Rai Russo Young, and in a way that was it was an incredible place to learn about filmmaking, and it was also because they were improvised. They were outlined, but they were improvised. It was, in some ways, it was like writing on the spot for me. That's
why you were good at it.
That was like the mental game of it for me. It was less, it didn't feel like acting in quite the same way as it felt like I'm writing and acting it at the same time, which is a very different part of your brain.
A little bit like the Linklater team.
Yeah, it felt like that to me. And then I started more acting, but the whole time I was continuing to write, and even though I loved making those movies, and I found this pleasure in improvisation because it felt like writing while I was acting, I think I always missed the rhythm of the words on the page, which is very present in plays because that's the only way rhythm is established in the theater. And in cinema, rhythm is established through editing, which is a different way to come at it. But I like films where the rhythm's in the words, which is why I like, Howard Hawks movies.
And that's Mistress America.
Yeah, and that's Mistress America. But like even Frances Ha, which was really the first piece of writing that, we wrote it together, but it was, it was the kind of writing I'm interested in. It was very much as much as my voice as I think I had done before then. That was all tightly scripted. It was, the rhythm was in the language, and in any case, that's how I approach everything.
So describe your approach to the script and to the performance that you had to create
in
for
20th
20th Century Women.
Well, interestingly, the script was set, but for Mike, he's a great writer, but the rhythm is not in the language for him. It's in something else. It's almost in the heartbeat of the people. It's more physical. And I had time before we started working, and I had about 5 months before we all met to start shooting, basically. And he gave us all separately, which we learned when we all were together. We all had homework, basically. He sent me home with a lot of photography books. I took photography lessons to learn how to use these old cameras and to take them apart and put them together and develop the film. And that way that when you see a photographer who really knows what the fuck they're doing. Sorry, can I say that? Okay.
Indiewire.
Okay,
We're good.
Indiewire. Okay. Like I think of I don't know if you know the photographer Bruce Weber.
Mm-hmm.
He's great, and he shoots on film still, and he can load a camera without, he can talk to you. It's so second nature. It's that thing, and Mike wanted me to be able to be very second nature with the cameras, and so I was doing that and all this music, and I knew some punk music, but I went deep.
Because 1979 is before you were born.
It was before I was born. And
I was your age in the movie, more or less, in 1979.
Oh, that's great.
So I was identifying with your character.
Yeah. And so, so we had all these separate things that we were doing, which was helping me kind of sink into what she was. And it's also based on Mike's sister. The part of Abby is based on Mike's sister, and he didn't say you're playing my sister, but he said you should talk to my sister because she grew up in Santa Barbara and she went to art school in New York, and she had cervical cancer and she had to move back home, and I spent a lot of time talking with her, which was so valuable because she was so open with me, and it was even little things like I grew up in Live Strong and breast cancer survivors and marches, and in the 70s cancer was kind of more of a hush-hush. We don't talk about it.
The C word.
Yeah, it was a C word. There was something wrong with you. And there was something wrong with her in her cervix, which you don't talk about, like there was a lot, and just how alienated she felt and how she felt like she couldn't speak about it. And I didn't know the thing about the DES at all, and
that's interesting.
I didn't, it was so not of my generation, but I talked to my mother about it because she's around, and she was like, oh yeah, DES a lot. She had friends whose mothers had taken it, and it's really those things were the way she talked to me. And it was actually when I talked to Mike about it. He said that he said that she had told me things that she wouldn't have necessarily told him because he's her brother, and there were certain details and things.
So you added those.
Yeah, we added those.
You also brought a certain, forgive me, Greta energy to it.
I can't help it. Gets in there.
There's a playfulness, there's a joy,
Yeah.
there's an outgoing spirit that you have that we see across movies. And the choice of the hair color or the clothing. I'm curious about some of those choices.
You know, it's the hair color. We went through a lot of potential haircuts and hair color. I mean, the hair color, it was, I guess, Manic Panic had just come out in 1979, and Mike was it was very important for him that we actually use the hair color that would have been available then. So that was the Manic Panic bright fire engine red. And he actually had the hair color. He said, I have a very clear idea, because he started as an artist and a graphic designer. So you can tell from his films, so visual, so very
that house
precise.
Is such a great character.
Oh my God. And he's so exact about how he wants things. And he said, no, it needs to be bright red, because I see 3 photographs. I see Elle with her bright blonde hair. I see Annette with her gray brown hair. And I see you with bright red hair. And it needs to be this way. So the hair color came from him. And then in a way, I think I had an idea of Abby as having actually a more somber looking wardrobe, and then when I went to the costume fitting, it wasn't that way. So in a way, some of that, it feels like me, but it came from Jennifer Johnson, who was such a great costume designer, and Mike, and then also when I did research into, the punks of the 70s and CBGBs, I think a little bit, because so many of the pictures were in black and white, that you put a monochromatic look on it, when actually it was really colorful, and it was really big. Like when you actually see the color photographs of the girl's eye makeup, it wasn't black. It was yellow, or it was purple, or it was poppy, and like the way Debbie Harry dressed, or the way it was much more colorful than I think, just because of the black and white thing. So
I went there.
You went there. So that stuff kind of came through them, but it was exactly right, and it was it was I loved those costumes. They also, Jennifer is my favorite kind of costumer, who every piece, they're storytellers. It's like every piece of clothing, she can't have you try something on or set a piece in your wardrobe without giving you the story behind it, and then we make the story together. Anne Roth is like that, who's one of the best costumers who's ever lived. It's like, she got this jacket at a flea market in Chelsea, and then she was going to give it to her boyfriend, but it didn't fit, so now it's hers, and she's kept it, and even though they broke up, she couldn't wear it for a couple of months, but now she wears it again.
That's
like that
great.
Kind of thing. And so everything is infused with meaning, and that's how all the pieces of the wardrobe felt, and everything in her room, it was all. And in a way, the movie, Abby's project of taking photographs of everything she owns, Mike really treats every object, every piece of clothing, as its own universe of meaning, which is, as an actor, is incredibly useful, because you're trying to layer it.
So I'm fascinated by the way the women in the house, and this is such a commune kind of setup, how they all relate to the Billy Crudup character. And I think that's the best thing he's ever done.
Oh my God.
But he's almost like the girl in the movie.
There's
like a role reversal going on there.
I know. I love Billy. I love William. His character is. I can't imagine. I mean, when I think of this movie, it's like I can't imagine anyone else being these parts. Which, of course, but also it's good casting. But yeah, Billy Crudup was great as William. I also love the way. I mean, particularly he and Abby, that they have sex, but they're not supposed to be together, but he's the perfect person for her at that moment where she's definitely not been with anyone since the surgery. Her body has been this place that felt off limits, and he is so deeply non-judgmental and so kind, and that having a sexual experience with someone can be exactly right, and it does not mean that is the person that you're supposed to be with. And I think in movie tropes, it generally means that you're meant to be with them.
This isn't a movie that follows any kind
There are no tropes.
of trope. That's what's so great about it. Each of these characters is unique. You've never seen them before. They're not based on anything else.
They're not schematic.
And there's no formula here.
And they're not schematic, and it's not like it's. I mean, even like with Abby's character, the thing of, well, she deeply wanted to be a mother, and she was also this wild punk girl who liked having sex with different men and being in New York and being kind of wild in that way. Like that both of those things were true in her, but of course, I mean, people are like that, but it's because it doesn't follow anything that
How did you play last night?
Oh my God, it was great. It was everyone was laughing, and it was very warm. You could feel the warmth in the room, and I'd never seen it with an audience, and I just saw it alone in a screening room a few months ago, and I adored it. But it's also hard to really. It's a movie that wants to be shared communally, I think. So it felt like that was the right way to see it.
It's a good Thanksgiving movie.
It's a good Thanksgiving movie. Everybody grab your screeners.
Thank you,
Oh my
Greta.
God, it's over. We didn't even get to the high heels.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. We got no one's dragging you out yet. All right.
Okay.
So
High
I
heels.
basically came in
Yes.
and you took your shoes off.
Yeah, my shoes
These are your shoes,
are off.
and this is what women do. Actresses do.
Yep. I know.
And I've, someone like even Kristen Stewart, who's taken her shoes off with me many times, and in Cannes she was wearing flats in
Right.
the daytime, and then she'd put on the heels
At night.
for the red carpet, and she would defend, loves the shoes. She doesn't want to offend the fashion designers, I think.
Right. Well, there's that. You don't want to offend the fashion designer. Also, I mean, the shoes are beautiful, so we can start there.
And they make your legs look beautiful.
And they make your legs look beautiful. They make you look taller. So that's. But I'm 5'9". I'm already very tall, and I really, truly think that we are going to look back on high heels with the same kind of confusion as we do corsets.
Or the women in China with the bound
Foot-binding.
feet.
I really think we are. And I think it's going to take one incredibly famous, incredibly beautiful, stylish woman to say, I'm done, and everybody's going to get done with it.
Ariana Huffington gave them up.
She gave them up.
Long ago. She hurt
Interesting.
herself. She flipped her ankle. Wore flats, and she's a tall woman. She said, I'm done.
I'm done.
But she's not in the glamour universe that you exist in, and I understand that. But I'll never forget seeing one of the torture things that I witness every year is the Oscar lunch, the nominees' lunch. And that's a situation where the women have to stand for a long period of time up on the dais for this group photo.
I
And
had
they
no idea.
all have to wear, there's Michelle Williams at the end of the alphabet, or I see it every year. Amy Adams is up there.
This is a
and they're
mystery
wearing
to me.
these. And I remember seeing, Helen Hunt was there one year, and I remember seeing her literally leaning on the wall by the door, waiting, counting the seconds till she could get back to her limo, take off the shoes, and put on the flats.
Oh my God, that sounds like a nightmare. I didn't know that. I mean, of course, it's just the standing in those shoes. Well, listen.
But the way you guys
I'm
do
going to
it,
make a deal
say
with
it.
you.
Say it.
If by some stroke of luck, at any point when I'm at that luncheon, if I ever get to that luncheon, I will not wear heels. That is my promise, and maybe it'll never happen, but I won't do it. That's it. That's my vow.
But do you think there's a possibility if you all, because I did an interview with Jessica Chastain,
Yeah.
she took her shoes off,
Yeah.
she curled her feet under as
Yeah.
you're doing right now. What, if it's such torture, this is a daytime situation, you're not,
Yeah.
why not give them up?
Why not give them up? Because it's like a whole, because I think everybody expects you to do it, and it's easier to say yes than it is to say no. I mean, I think it's really that simple. And and to be totally honest, there are certain outfits that look weird with flats, so you have to plan it around the flats. And there's certain outfits that you need the heels. So yeah, I would say it's that. But mostly it's just complacency. Path of least resistance.
All right. Thank you.
I'm not proud of that. It's just true.